The next one was, I said Canada, didn't I?
Yes, Canada. Thank you, Thomas. So I did not prepare a slide because I wanted to see you all this morning and just have a very informal, more informal conversation, and we can follow on with your questions. So first, when we started discussing the CDO corner concept with Thomas, Thomas was really intrigued about how each of the, I would say, key countries were doing design, how they were doing it, and why it was different. And when he talked about Canada, he said, "Oh, Canada must be exactly like the US, huh?" So no offense, David, but I was a bit it was like a slap in the face for me. So I was like, okay, I guess I have to to share a bit what we do and how we try to do it, and of course what we learn along the way. So I'm not going to show you the entire history because we've been teaching design at CFC since I think 2005 on and off, and then now it expanded to the point where the plan is for actually we have two major programs: the Joint and Staff program, targeted majors in Left-Hand Canals. So we have around 130, 140 residential students. And I would say, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, we have around 60 students that are distance learning per year.
Yeah, that's right. There's two cohorts, so it's 120, but two different courses.
Yeah, and for the National Security Program, it's a program that is dedicated to colonels and senior public servants. It's around 32 students per year who are also doing design, and you can really see an expansion of let's say our design informed curriculum in the last decade or so, to the point that now John is bold enough to try to have a design exercise during 2 weeks for 18 syndicates this June. So you can do the math. It's around 200 students simultaneously doing design this June. So it's the first time we're doing it at this scale. So of course we didn't start by doing it at this scale. We started very gradually with it was in 2005 initiative that was led by a Lieutenant Colonel John Anderson, really because he was curious about the SOD at the time, systemic operational design, and really wanted to explore it with willing students. So and then because the collective are tied to the person who is leading them, when he left the CFC for a rotation, then it died. And it was brought back by Professor Paul Mitchell around 2009 for our first exploration, which started with just a lecture, one lecture per year, and then it kind of blossomed from this because there's so much you can do just with a lecture. I think the sooner you can get your students to play with it and play with the methods, the sooner it's going to become more intelligible for them. So on the how you can really see this kind of turn also from more kind of a lecture to exercises. Because right now everything we do with design, there's almost not that many lectures. Perhaps like 10% will be lecture just to bring in the core theory and introduction, but the rest of it is really hands-on playing with design methods and a specific challenge. Sometimes these challenges are sponsored by external organizations. Sometimes we develop the challenge ourselves, and we try to find a sponsor who might be interested in partnering with us to tackle this challenge. So what do we mean by design? Of course, there's a struggle on definition because it means several things to several person. I think that there's a consensus at CFC that what we really want to get out of design it's capability to change our perspective on a specific challenge or on a specific problem. So you could call it reframing. I think this is where on both the military side and the faculty side that we see the top value, and of course, if you do this properly, if you challenge especially the biases and the sacred cows that make us see reality in a different way, of course, you're going to come up with novel ideas that will inform planning if you are in a major or lieutenant colonel, and that will inform strategy if you are a colonel or a senior public servant. Because in the end, they develop different products depending on the program they are in. So I think that's why we've been doing this. I'd be curious to see John's answer for that. So why is it important for our institution? What's your perspective on that, John? I'll come with mine.
I guess the simple answer for me is the fact that sometimes we can get sucked into our own perspectives. And I think the key thing from the military side is being able to reach outside of our box and see things from a different side. The planning is where we go back into that box, but we need to be able to see from outside the box for when we're trying to deal with sort of some of the current problems we're dealing with.
Yeah, so I think it's totally right, and we would not be doing. I don't think we would be teaching design if we did not have the trauma of Afghanistan. I think that a lot of officers felt that there were some limitations to the way, not only the way they were planning, but also the connection between strategy and tactics. That there was really a disconnect between them, and we sorry, printer's going on. And there was also, if you look at recent history, we just come up with cases and cases and cases where you find this disconnect again. Like if you look at the Operation Unified Protector, Canadian General Charlie Bouchard was leading the operation, and clearly you can see this disconnect again, between tactics on the ground that went really well for the experience, but that in the strategy did not really accomplish any positive political outcomes on the ground. So I think that there's with these kind of experiences, we feel that there's a need for something else. And I think yes, and for the rest, you have this whole I would say discourse on innovation that is in society. This is also in government that is really I think encouraging the Canadian Armed Forces to experiment with different ways, different tools. So I think this is also helping us to experiment with this. And we have also, I think, more and more support from general officers who did the School of Advanced Military Studies in the US. So every year we have a lot of, always like at least 2 Canadians doing the program, either at the colonel or the major level. And these students move up the ranks, and then you can get support from them, and they are using it also in their function. We can think of Major General Simon Bernard when he was the J5 at the Canadian Joint Operations Command, which is basically the headquarters planning all Canadian operations. He was using especially system mapping and all that as part of the operational planning process. So you can see that some who learn it are already integrating it a bit in their function, and it gives a bit of relevance to what we are doing. I would say also that there's a bit of, I think, an issue of literacy that we try to get, because if we look at the U.S. Army, they've put it into their doctrine since 2015. So clearly, like if because we do a lot of operations with the Americans and others, if we want our officers to be able to know the design speak, they should learn at least a bit of it. So when they come in coalition and all that, they can go into a design process and be able to communicate. For the rest of my time, like you asked the question, if you should have done something better, what it would be. Actually, I spent my 2 years in Denmark thinking about this. So now I'm trying with John and others to do things better. And there are many ways that we are doing it. So again, like one of the new features that we brought in is a course on facilitation for majors. So we have 12 majors that are right now learning design facilitation. I call them my crazy 12. And after that, for all of the other design activities in the program, they will be the one first co-facilitating with professional facilitators. And then at the very end, this big exercise I was talking about with the 18 syndicates, they will have their own syndicate to facilitate with support of professionals, facilitators acting as mentors. So that's a new construct. We are trying it this year. And with facilitation, the hope is that, well, for the students, then they'll be already comfortable when they move to their next posting to actually use it with their team in a very, very concrete way. The other thing is that I mentioned a bit that we were for using the agnostic approach, which is basically we agreed that you can use any kind of methodologies as long as it contributes to where you want to go. This is great in theory, but in practice, when you teach design, you don't have a lot of time. And it's already complex as it is. So if you introduce 3-4 different methodologies to a single student, it can really become messy. So where we want to experiment with is developing our own design methodologies that we call the organic design model, based on the experience of natural designers in the forces. And what I mean by that is that you have a lot of people who were able to reframe or develop novel ideas by themselves without having proper training. And they've done it with using their own language, the language of the institution. So instead of building a model from core canons, philosophy, system thinkings, and to try to translate it in a top-down way, we want to go the opposite way and build a model from the bottom up, from what is already working in the forces, and try to modelize it. So again, that's another experiment. I don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to know in September. So these are the two main way that we are experimenting with to try to do things better. Over to you, Thomas. Thank you.
Thomas, I know you're not allowing questions, but can I just quickly ask BB one while it's still fresh? I'm just curious about your multi-paradigmatic and agnostic. To me, I can see your logic in how you've described it. What we're doing is sending people off to SAMs, we're sending people off to universities, they're being exposed to multiple models. To me, the principle of design thinking is not to be rigid and dogmatic, as my co-author who's popping up on his iPhone down there would argue, but it's actually a value to have different approaches. So different universities in Australia are teaching different design principles, and I think there is a richness in there, but maybe we can leave that to the later discussion. But it is something which just sort of jumped out at me while you're talking. And you and I have talked about your multi-paradigmatic and your agnostic before, and I don't know, I'm just still grappling with it, I guess, in terms of where the pros and cons. So maybe maybe in the US is doing things different. So
yeah, just real quick, Murray, what we will experiment with this year is that the students break off into 3 different streams. There's one stream that is focused on institutional problems, another stream that is focused on operational problems, and the other one is focused on strategic problems. So what we'll do is that each of these streams will have a different methodologies that is more aligned with these type of problems. So for instance, institutional problem, it makes a lot of sense if you use human-centric design approaches that is really focused on empathy and all that. Operational problem makes a lot of sense if you go with more systemic operational design approach, where you get a systemic understanding before generating your operational approach, right? And for the strategic one, they will do more foresight to really look at weak signals and to try to understand where the future might take us. And of course, there's going to be a lot of exchange and liaison between these students, but we're going to try to do it that way. But of course, I think of course in principle, like if you would do a full on design program of a year, you'd like your students to be exposed to several methodologies. But I think like with the time we have, it's a bit it's challenging. Over to you, Thomas.
Yeah, thank you. Very good.